it's fun, and it's just straight to the point what we do instead of real talk, which is kind of too deep.
Yeah. Well, that
Um,
when you look it up too, it's like it's kind of funny because like real talk is just like every podcast. It
yeah,
feels like at
everyone's
this
been doing
point.
real talks. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk with ZTS, where we, as brothers, search for ways to share our voices while having a good time just talking, having those real talk conversations, our shared experiences, and reacting to random topics and articles. As we always say, we all have something to share, and we look forward to sharing and building that community of stories that we can all relate to. Now enjoy the episode.
What is up?
Oh man,
How's it going, man? How are you?
I'm good. Just waiting on your ass. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Hey, got to do a last minute. Luckily, I have grocery store is so close, but yeah, um, had to do some last minute grocery run. But good news is, I did all the gathering, and then the wifey does the cooking. So once we finish with this, I'm just gonna dig right into a good meal.
That's fair.
So it worked out. Um, yeah, but man, hey, it's good to see you. It felt like a long, long week. You had a good weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
I don't even remember the weekend, I'll be quite honest with you.
Yeah, well, I had such a long weekend that I felt like I was in another city. We were basically out all weekend in Mount Rainier, or by Mount Rainier, Ashford, for a friend's wedding. And so it was like a whole weekend affair. And then we had to come back straight from that on Sunday to like another family's like baby shower and Spanaway. So it was like back to back to back events. It was like I never ate so much like Polynesian Pacific Islander food like nonstop for an entire weekend. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
it was our
feel your
yeah,
arteries clogging, I'm sure.
seriously, dude. Mac salad, rice, what's that called? Short ribs. Like
Yeah.
we had it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because Friday was like a pre-wedding party. So
Yeah.
so it's a private venue for the whole weekend. So the bride and groom wanted to do like a pre-wedding party. So everyone who could make it that day, you know. So we had like and it was like a Samoan / Fijian wedding. So it was like Islander food. And then Saturday was the real wedding. And then it was like more, Islander food. And then, obviously my in-laws are Islanders. And so going to the baby shower on Sunday was even more Islander food. But hey, it's done now. Our dinner is super light. We're keeping it like salad and protein. And it's like, oh man, that is all I want. No more rice, no more food for a bit. No more like, Islander seasoning food for a bit.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I feel like
Yeah.
when I was up there versus like when I was up there and I came down and then Allie's family was down here. I
Yeah.
feel like the only thing I had that entire week were like hamburgers. Like I'm not
Oh, geez.
I was like, bro, I cannot. It's not as it's not as obviously crazy as like Islander food and stuff, but I felt like I was just eating out the
Oh,
entire
yeah.
time. You know what I mean? So I was just like, oh God. So
That's
I
funny.
feel you on that one. Maybe not as heavy
Yeah.
as Islander food, but I definitely like I had a hamburger for 6 days in a row and I'm just like, bro, I
Yeah. I
can't do
feel you.
this. Can't do this.
I mean, that's your type of in-laws, So that's what you guys have going on. But
Yeah.
still, man, hey, a good burger always hits.
Oh no, yeah. I'm not complaining. The burger was
Yeah.
good. It was just by the third
Yeah,
day, I
yeah.
was just like, bro, I can't. Just because we were out and about. It wasn't necessarily always with her family. It's because, we were traveling. So that's the quickest thing you can get is a burger too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like even
Right.
when my 12-hour drive home, like it's not like I'm gonna sit here and go like, I don't know, Panda Express or something. Then that's just gonna
Right.
make me sleepy during the drive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just very much a burger filled week of being up there, home, all that stuff. It was more just
No,
the eating out, the factor, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
because it's like
no,
we
man. I
weren't
mean,
always at
yeah,
home, so it was like
yeah.
always something.
Which was funny because um, because we were out in like pretty much like a no service remote area and everything was catered. We pretty much didn't spend pretty much a dime all weekend, which was really nice. Like I think the only thing we spent all weekend was probably gas, maybe, and maybe some snacks for our Airbnb we stayed at. But
Yeah,
other than that, and that was and snacks and like drinks and stuff, it didn't even total like above $100.
yeah,
And so like we didn't spend because we didn't eat out, right? Because everything was like catered to us all weekend. So it was kind of nice, even though, so I can't really complain that, you know, ate like shit, but it was still really good food and we didn't really spend a dime. So yeah, I guess that balances out.
yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was a good weekend. And yeah, man, just kind of like back into the grind of things right now. Um um First week of football, right? I think we
Yeah.
could kind of jump into our reaction segment of our episode. Um Short week of news this week, so not really anything to react to in terms of news. Definitely after this week, as you probably know, in terms of everything going on, politics, whatever, we might have more news next
Yeah.
episode, but
Oh, for
this
sure.
week, keeping it light, football, man. I think that's all we're going to react to this week. I did hit up Ray. He's avoiding us, so we're going to have to wait one more week
Huh.
before we could interrogate him about Bo Nix. He can't jump on, but he says next week he should be able to be free to jump on.
Feel like it's gonna be
Um,
old news by then, man.
hey, but I mean,
You know,
but
it's gonna be one of those things. He's gonna be deemed a genius by the time he actually talks to us, and maybe that's his plan. Maybe
exactly.
that's
So
his
that's
plan.
why we're gonna wait. So, anyways, football week one. Me being in a remote place, I didn't really have a chance to really watch football too much, besides the updates that I got from my fantasy football team, which thanks to Sean, I just squeaked out a win. And as you probably know, for those who play fantasy football, this week was for me, week one for me is always I consider fantasy football preseason, right? You put out random players, because you know me, I'm a nerd, I'm a stat nerd, and that's how I like analyze who I put into my lineup every week. And this week is my preseason, so I just put out what the consensus is to start, and consensus across the board this week was bad for a lot of people. So like it was such a like a hit or miss, right? You had some players who went off for like 30 some points, and then you would have like a superstar who would go off for like less than 5 points. And it's like it's just all across the board, crazy week one. I won, barely squeaked out because I was playing Sean. He had Christian McCaffrey left, who typically averages about 20 points last year, and he was down by 15 or some points,
Oh
but
yeah.
because Christian McCaffrey didn't play, he had no one to sub Christian McCaffrey. Um, I was
It's
surprised he didn't
yeah.
drop Christian McCaffrey to sub someone in, knowing
Well, it's kind
Sean.
of crazy because I'm like, yeah, I know, drop him, right.
Yeah,
I was like, I thought he had enough time to, you know,
like
at least put him
recover.
in the IR spot and pick up, what's his bucket?
Oh, I mean the backup
Yeah, yeah,
though.
yeah, backup.
Aquan, I think, was the one who picked up the
He
backup
picked
even
him up, but
before.
no, no, no. I don't think he picked him up until after or
Oh,
midway through the game. Actually, I have it up right here. I can look.
yeah.
7:14. It was literally in the third quarter of the game.
Well, I mean,
They
by
picked
that
him up.
time, he couldn't plug and play though.
No, no, no. Yeah, but I think it was more just
Oh,
because
to
that
have for
announcement
next.
came out at like
Yeah,
3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or something,
yeah,
that he wasn't going to play. But then it was kind of funny because if I don't know if you listened to the post game at all. Jordan Mason, who's the backup running back who got his first start
yeah,
last night,
yeah. I
he was
didn't, I
they
didn't, but I heard about it.
they were just like, oh, when did you know you were going to start? Because you typically say that to someone who is going to find out that they're going to start like moments before or
Yeah.
like the same day. Because usually that's how it is. Like, how do you mentally prepare for something that you like knew last minute? And he was like, well, they told me that I was going to start on Friday, which
Which was like illegal because like they were
yeah, it's
yeah. I
yeah.
mean not
So
illegal, but
it's
like
not illegal, but
manipulating.
it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things because like and like the NFL, well, actually, not even just the NFL. Well, the NFL is a business, right? So, like,
Yeah.
if you look at it, like the biggest money makers in regarding the NFL is betting and like fantasy football, right?
Hmm.
So the fact that they kind of just left people hanging and betters
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
Vegas and all the books and stuff,
Yeah.
thinking that Christian McCaffrey was going to play. Now, don't get me wrong, if you were anywhere outside of the San Francisco area, I would say that, it probably did come to you as a shock, but like the entire week, me being down in this Bay Area, like so many of the 49er fans were like, oh, he's definitely not playing. He's not playing. There's no way
Yeah.
he's playing. So like, everyone down here was like, I think they expected him not to play at that point.
Yeah.
So it didn't come to a shock, or as a shock, I should say, when
Yeah.
they announced him as is inactive, whereas everyone else was scrambling, panicking, and pulling people last minute. Or if you were at work or busy doing something, you didn't see it
Yeah.
until after the game started. So then you were kind of fucked anyways.
I mean, hey, I can't complain. Well, like I said, I'm not wishing anything. Christian McCaffrey is one of my favorite modern running backs of this era, regardless if he's on our rival team.
Yeah.
I had him all last year. He won me a championship in my other dynasty league that I play in every year with our league, and he won me a championship. Like I literally only lost 2 games all of last year because of him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had to give him up this year, so I couldn't franchise him. And the person who picked him up, #1 overall, didn't get a chance to use him at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, that's like with most leagues, right?
Yeah, true.
I was going to say that was like
it's
every
funny
league.
well, I mean, like it's funny because it's like, hey, it's not my problem anymore. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, yeah. It was unfortunate because like obviously people kind of obviously were hoping that he would play or thinking that he was
Yeah.
going to play because he was listed as questionable.
Yeah.
It wasn't doubtful; it was listed as questionable. But that's the crazy thing is that everyone within the organization and even in this area knew he wasn't questionable. They knew he was doubtful. So it's just kind of interesting to see. And I'm not speaking from a fantasy aspect here, but more just to like in general football.
I mean, he has. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna say something right off the bat. Jordan Mason played his ass off. It goes to show. I hate to say it, but the 49ers, they can plug and play any running back, not even name Christian McCaffrey, and they will go off like Christian McCaffrey. So Jordan Mason, amazing game. However, there is no running back controversy. Christian McCaffrey is the de facto guy. He's just that good. However, the point being is that I had Christian McCaffrey all last year fantasy wise. If I didn't have other players go off for me, even though he carried me to the finals, he didn't really play so well in the finals fantasy football because he actually hurt his hamstring,
right.
Just like he did last year. And I have to admit, as much as we want to blame coaching, you know how when they lost the Super Bowl, they didn't use their star player, which is Christian McCaffrey. If they would have just ran him to the ground that final game, assuming he was healthy, I think the 49ers would have had a chance to win the Super Bowl. But you notice that the game script took him out of the game completely. And especially in the second half, they didn't even run the ball that much. It has to go to show that maybe it was because Christian McCaffrey was fucking tired. Also hurting.
Oh,
and
for sure.
So I don't know if there's going to be a running back controversy, but there's at least going to be more maybe evenly split. So those who have Christian McCaffrey in fantasy, it might not be as crazy as he was fantasy-wise last year because they'll probably limit his snaps to keep him more fresh in games. But he'll still be the de facto guy, though. I'm sure he'll get the majority of the goal line.
That's why you see most teams, honestly, with multiple running backs. It's like running back by committee. That's why it's
Yeah.
hard drafting running backs now. Like, it's not, this isn't 5 years ago, 6 years ago,
No.
where it's
Yeah.
like you got one guy and then you got the backup that comes in maybe on
Yeah.
third,
Yeah.
third down or in garbage time. And you're
Yeah.
just running like, Marshawn Lynch, you're just running them to the ground kind of situation. But,
Yeah.
nowadays
I
you don't
mean, to
really
be
see
fair,
that.
hey, our beloved Marshawn Lynch, to be fair, he was like Black Panther, man. Every hit he got, he powered up, you know?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
the type of running back we went after too. If you think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
like Marshawn, you had Chris Carson for a bit,
Hmm.
just all these bruising type of backs,
Yeah.
Derrick Henry type of guys.
Yep.
But it's kind of, it's moving towards more of that by committee. There's always going to be two.
Yeah.
You're going to have a third back for third
Yeah.
down stuff. That's usually more of a pass catcher, anyways. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, though, he is a pass catching back. That's the crazy
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So you could essentially run him all game like the 49ers
Yeah.
did essentially last year. Um,
It's crazy though, because he's not a big back by any
no, he's
means,
not. Yeah.
but he is. Remember they were talking about it yesterday, and obviously I followed him a lot last year because he was on my fantasy team, so I watched a lot of 49er games just for him. He led the league, even though it didn't seem like it. He led the league in most yards in between the tackles.
Yeah.
So it goes to show. I mean, yes, 49ers have a great old line, but it goes to show he still is a bruising back and hard to take down,
Yeah.
even though he doesn't look like it. So for me, man, hey, Marshawn Lynch, my favorite running back of all time. However, Christian McCaffrey is up there. Now if I had to start a team, by picking which running back to start first, as much as I would choose Marshawn Lynch just for the fact that he's just an all around amazing guy, like on field and off the field, right?
Yeah.
Not saying Christian McCaffrey is not a nice guy; he's just more a reserve guy. But just to have someone like Marshawn Lynch, I would build a team around him. However, if we're just going purely on skill and stats, Christian McCaffrey might be the player that I build a team around.
If we're just comparing those two, right?
Exactly. If we're just comparing those two, yeah.
That's fair.
Okay. I'm comparing those two only for the fact that those are my two favorites.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair.
Obviously, if I was going to build around a team, what? Adrian Peterson.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say AP.
Adrian Peterson, even like Derrick Henry. The
Derrick
freaks of
Henry,
nature, right?
yeah.
Like the players that like are once in a generation, right?
Yeah, there's not many players that can get 2,000 yards in a season.
Yeah, I mean, even yeah. Anyways, but yeah. Anyways, catch me up a little bit on your give me your editorial on the Seahawks, because obviously with my busy weekend, I was able to get back home and kind of binge like podcasts on it, watch the highlights. Even though I had it recorded, obviously, my in-laws are, it's split between a lot of Seahawk fans / Raider fans. So even though I went in to the baby shower hoping not to get it spoiled, because I have all the games on DVR, so I was like, I'll enjoy it when I get home. But by the end of the day, when the game was over, obviously, like, everyone announced Seahawks winning. So I was like, fuck, all right, I'm not going to go waste my time watching the full game. I'll just watch the highlights. So watching the highlights, watching the editorials from all the other shows on YouTube, watching Richard Sherman's podcast. I have my opinions, but, obviously, just so that you don't go on full like editorial mode, obviously I understood how trash the offense was on the first half, and then how they picked it up in the second half. However, my takeaway was Mike McDonald's style of defense. There was a crazy good energy throughout the entire game for defense. Like, yes, we played Bo Nix, rookie, but there was just something refreshing. Like, it almost gave me a lot of people said this, so I'm not the only one, luckily, because I would read Reddit after the fact. But a lot of people agree that this gave us like a 2013 Legion of Boom starting vibes, Not that we're going to go to the Super Bowl this year, knock on wood. However, like, it gave us like that young defense with the energy all across the board. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I think there's a renewed energy in the building. I think the defense would have been this lights out regardless of who was going to be the coach, right? I think that you have
You think so though? I
Hmm?
I don't think so.
I
I
think
personally
I
think
think there's
Mike
one of those
McDonald
things.
had an
Yeah,
impact.
I was gonna say you didn't let me finish, man. No,
Okay, okay, yeah,
no,
sorry,
I'm
sorry.
just
Yeah,
saying there is a renewed energy when your coach is half the age of your last coach. You know what
that's
I
true.
mean? Like Mike McDonald's a defensive whiz. Don't get me wrong, or anybody wrong. So was Pete Carroll, but the energy from Pete is going to be a little bit different, right? It's definitely run the ball first and then defense. His defenses were always good. Um, Now, towards the end of his tenure with the Hawks, it's obviously didn't bring the same energy, but he still brought a lot of energy for 74 years old. You know what I mean? Or 72, sorry. Um,
Yeah,
which is it's still crazy to think about. Obviously, you get new philosophies, new things in the building with a younger coach, and then bringing in some of the guys that played for him and whatnot. Um, is a good look, and it's just a different mentality, right? The defensive scheme is going to be a little bit different. The energy is going to be a little bit different.
yeah.
But that's the thing, he inherited of top 10 defense. So like it was going
True,
to be one of
true.
those things like,
I'll give
and
you that.
that's where we had drafted. That's where we put all our draft stock in the last few years anyways, was defense. Um, and getting a little bit of help on the offense, like JSN, for instance,
Yeah, I can't wait for
our
his breakout.
O line still needs a lot of work. Charles Cross
Yeah,
definitely played well.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of work, especially with injuries, on the right side of the line. Abe Lucas didn't start. So we had
yep,
George Fanton there, who's, again, it's one of those things. George Fant didn't play a lot of football growing up. He was a basketball player.
yeah.
Pete took a chance on him back in 2013,
Didn't
2014.
he leave for a bit,
He
then
did.
came
He
back?
he went
Yeah,
to the
yeah. Okay,
Jets
okay.
and then he came
Yeah,
back last year or the year before,
yep.
maybe.
I remember now.
Um, but that was the thing. It was like, oh my god, we're getting George Fant, and it's kind of funny because like one, there was a nostalgia piece there from when he was on the teams that we were in our deep playoff runs back in the what could have been a dynasty. But then it's just like, damn, are we really getting excited over a guy that really, I mean, he really picked up football towards the end of his like college career kind of situation, right?
Yeah,
And he was a basketball player, and it's like, damn, that where we're at right now? But don't get me wrong, he's a great player. And when he went down with injury in the first second quarter, I was like, fuck, we're not doing well right now on the right side of the
yeah.
line.
I mean, just watching the highlights and the first play of the game is like
It was a
an
pick.
interception.
It was an
Yeah,
interception.
and it was
I
a
like
bad one too. It wasn't even like
it was a
hitting
horrible.
hitting the receiver in the chest and a freak bounce. No, dude, it was like yeah, it was like as if I was throwing the ball
Bro, it
behind the
was
line.
yeah, it was the closest receiver was Tyler Lockett, 10 yards away from the ball.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it's funny because Gino was like, yeah, we started out probably the worst you could possibly start out. I'm like, well, at least you owned it
I
because
was
that
reading on
was
Reddit. People are like, hey, um, 30 minutes to get into mid-season form, we'll take that.
well, yeah, I mean that's kind of
Yeah,
the mantra that the Seahawks have created anyways, right?
yeah,
Is that it's like it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
yeah.
And
Well, I mean, Mike
that was
McDonald's new
Pete's
philosophy. That was
that was
Pete's.
Pete's
Yeah,
whole thing of like
yeah.
you can't
Where
win the
you don't win the
game
game in the
until the
first quarter,
fourth
you
quarter.
yeah. I
But
love, to be honest, when we were killing it during the Legion of Boom days, that made sense. But nowadays, especially what we've seen the back end of Pete Carroll's career, we need to start new. And I love Mike McDonald's philosophy, where it's like we can win in the first quarter.
oh well, yeah, you got to
Yeah,
demoralize a team, but
yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things. But you also can't relax either.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
the defense obviously has to get stronger throughout the game.
Yeah.
Once you're picking
It
up
seemed
on
like they did though.
signals,
Am I
they,
wrong
no, no,
from
no, they
watching the
did.
highlights? Yeah.
I would honestly, I would say the defense. I don't know if they
They
got
kept getting
stronger
better,
throughout the game, but they, I think they were just relentless the entire game,
which I loved. I
which was
loved it.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what we kind of expected coming into the season. with the defense he inherited and his mastermind of magic works of what was going to happen anyways. He inherited a group of hungry guys and brought
Yeah.
that energy for sure. Now the offense, that was just rough. The first half was just like they looked like they didn't go to training camp kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even necessarily, other than the fact that Gino threw that pick, we just put ourselves in shitty positions.
Yeah.
There were so many people like, oh my God, Ryan Grubb, he's not doing great. He's a horrible. See, this was what was going to happen, bringing a college coordinator into the NFL. And I'm like, Joe, for instance, because he wasn't watching, he was like, oh man, Grubb sounds like his offense is struggling. I'm like, well, when you have 3 holding penalties and give up 2 sacks, and then there's 3rd and 97, and you're on your goal line, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
It don't matter
Yeah.
what call you or what play you call in there.
Yeah.
And then you give up a safety anyway. So it didn't even matter. It was just one of those things. I'm like, y'all chill for a minute. One, yes, the offensive sucks. The offense sucks. But I wouldn't put it on Grubb just yet. There was so many other self-inflicted wounds that we happened to take part in, to put him into a position where it was 3rd and 20, 3rd and 27 kind of situations. It was like,
Yeah.
well, what the fuck are you supposed to call on a 3rd and 27? You're not going to throw a 30-yard bomb down the field and hope that you get a first down. You're probably going to throw a fucking screen outside to either a receiver or your running back.
Yep.
Or in years past for the Seahawks, it would be a tight end because we'd had 3 tight ends on the field. So, it was interesting to see, once the offense started moving, though, it was like, okay, you can see like where the adjustments were made. And I think that was the huge thing at halftime. They were like, no one said any names of who said what. But Mike McDonald and Ryan Grubb made that halftime adjustment and just was like, all right, this is what we got to do. And shit, they came out the second half just firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. So, that was just one of those things. You didn't even really talk too much about the fact the defensive coordinator. No one's mentioning him because, it's Mike McDonald's the defensive wizard here. But it's kind of funny that, it's like, oh, I think they might have mentioned him once,
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny. They're like, oh, Mike McDonald's defense. I'm like, well, yeah, it is. It's his team, but there is a defensive coordinator who plays a part into it as well, and the DB's coach and all that stuff. But
right.
I don't know. We have such a young secondary and all that stuff, so it's good. Julian Love is playing. He's playing out of his mind. He ranked, I think, 1st in almost all safety categories after week 1.
Yeah. I heard too.
So
I heard 3 Seahawks made I was reading made the all like pro football stats team.
For week 1.
Yeah, I think it was who's that lineman that you were just talking about?
Charles Cross.
Charles Cross made the lineup for offense. He was the only one. In defense, we had 2 guys. We had Julian Love and we had Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah. Witherspoon put a lot of pressure, but no, Woolen was the one. He had an interception and he only allowed like 17 yards.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I expected the defense to hold up their bargain, and Jesus Christ, if they didn't, we would have definitely lost that game. I mean, after the first 3 possessions, it probably should have been 21-3. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it was 8-3. So thank you, defense, for holding when the offense gave the ball up inside the red zone both times. Yeah, that's the hard part. It's like, oh,
yeah,
Grubb was doing horrible. I'm like, bro, we muffed a punt. We didn't even do anything there. He didn't even have a chance. They're like, well, it's Grubb's offense. I'm like, first of all, that's special teams. That's a different coach, my guy.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of funny to see them trying to put blame on certain parts of our game and coaching staff this early. But I'm like, bro, so many of them it's their first time anyways. So like, give them a break.
It's a long season.
We got spoiled. Let's be honest. We got spoiled with Pete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he brought that winning culture. And that's really what we got spoiled with. Holmgren was good
Yep.
for a while, and then it just went downhill.
Mm.
And
Same
it
with Pete.
was the same with Pete. Jim Mora. Let's not forget about Jim Mora
Oh,
coming in
I
for a
remember
year.
Jim Mora era. Yeah.
It's unfortunate for
I
Jim
mean, he
Mora.
didn't have anybody. If I remember Jim Mora era, we were starting Tavares Jackson,
No,
like
we were.
yeah,
It
we
was one
didn't
of those
have
things like,
anybody.
but he never got
Yeah.
a chance because they were like, oh shit, Pete Carroll's available. Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
Later.
I know. I felt
It's-
sorry for Jim. He literally had nobody. I mean, Tavares Jackson, rest in peace, turned out to be one of the best coin flippers of all time. He had a solid record. Every time he went out there to coin toss, we would get the right call
Combination
and win the game.
of him and Charlie Whitehurst, man. Whew.
Charlie Whitehurst.
Ooh,
Forgot
clipboard
about that guy.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited. I think week 2 things are gonna be cleaned up. The dust will settle. We're gonna see, fantasy football players that usually do good are gonna come back into play. I'm wishing that for myself. I had Marvin Harrison Jr. who stunk it up. Not any fault of his own. I
Well,
looked up the highlights.
other than the drop,
Yeah, other than drop, but other than that,
that was yeah.
yeah,
I was like,
he
damn, how'd you drop that? But yes, they just didn't get the ball to him.
Yeah, he only had 4 targets all game.
Yeah.
For a number 1 pick like that, it's like I was watching some of the highlights. Besides that bad drop, he was doing fairly well to get open. It's just they couldn't get the ball to him.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing. Their offensive line still sucks. So
yeah.
Kyler Murray's running for his life back there.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for see what this week holds. I'm excited to finally get into the mind of Ray and what he was thinking of when he drafted Bo Nix. But who knows? Hey,
Well, I mean, he's
I'm
going to
rooting
look
for
like
him.
he's either going to be a genius or a what the fuck kind of moment, which is kind of where everyone's at the moment. Picking him 6th overall.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but
just wild with the amount of people who was still on the board.
Yeah. I mean, he passed up. Yeah, because he was the pick after me. And I'm sitting here, at 5 at that moment in time, I'm like, I had the tough decision of making a pick with Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you wend, who'd you go?
I went Chase. I wanted to go Jefferson, but because I've had Jefferson the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But
turns out we were wrong. He is quarterback proof. Yeah.
So I was just like,
for now.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'll go Chase this year, maybe just because he.
Yeah.
Because there was only really 3 wide receivers that were going to average more than, 18 points a game or whatever.
Yeah, and I have one of them.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, well, I'll go with that. Even though I really wanted Jonathan Taylor at that point, I was like, ooh, I need a running back. But it was funny.
I had to take Jonathan Taylor since you left him.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was one of those things because I had Rashee Rice and Jaden Reed as my keepers, just because I got to keep them in the last 2 rounds of the draft. So I was like, well, this is perfect because these are going to be targets. Rice until he gets that thing figured out with the racing in the offseason. That's not going to happen until like December, they said. So
I will say though, it worked out beautifully for me. You remember I kind of reluctantly drafted Jaden McDaniels just because he was the only one available.
Yeah,
he went off. I was so surprised. Yeah, I don't even watch the Commanders like that, but I'm like, hey, he might be my next year's franchise. Obviously, I'm lucky to still able to franchise CD Lamb one more year before I have to give him up. But I can't do Rachaad White anymore because I already done him 2 years in a row, even though technically he doesn't even fall to he's not even like top 5 yet. I drafted him so late. I think if I was able to keep him one more year again, like a 3rd year in a row, I think he still only slots in at the 9th or even 10th.
That's what it would have been Justin Jefferson for me. He would have been 10th round for me.
And which is fucking crazy.
Which is nuts.
But if Jaden McDaniels keeps this up, you know me, I'm not very high on quarterbacks because I always tend to use my draft capital for like running backs, receivers, heavy, and I pick up a quarterback late. But Jaden McDaniels, I might hold on to him. We'll see. He was my last pick, I think, right? Maybe or third to last pick.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. I know he's like in the double digits. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
he's
the
looking
thing
like a
with
steal.
I was gonna say the Commanders though. It's kind of nice. Like, they don't have a great record, but like their offensive line is decent.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not. It's not like when you're looking at Bryce Young with the
yeah, yeah.
Panthers. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
jeez.
Like I would, I would argue that Bryce Young was probably a better draft stock than Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah.
But or Jaden Daniels rather. But yeah, it was just kind of like
So I said McDaniels as well.
I think is it Daniels or
It's let's see.
is it? Now I'm
Let me look at
confused
that.
because
I'm looking
I
at it
think
right now.
we've said McDonald so much that I'm like,
Oh, just Daniels.
okay,
Just
it is Daniels. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so it was just like it's one of those things. Like at least he had a decent line coming into it. It wasn't the
Yeah.
best, but it wasn't the worst. Like their running
Yeah.
backs do solid. Sam Howell, before he got traded to the Seahawks in the offseason, didn't have like a horrible time there. Yeah, he
Right.
was probably one of the most hit quarterbacks. I'm not really defending my point very well, seeing that he had quarterback hits and all that stuff, and he got to the
Yeah.
quarterback a lot. But their line was decent. It's not like a holy line like some of these teams.
Right, right. Yeah. But
So,
we'll
it'll be
see how it
interesting.
goes, man. Week 2 is when everything will shake out. I see so many people, my team's name and my motto, money on the table. I see some money on the table right now in the waiver, but I'm trying to tell myself it's only week 1. I do have a good bench, like hold on just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to. What I love about our league is that there's no waiver wait, so it's like, someone can literally pick up a player mid game, but I know how that works out for me, so I want to see it out a little bit longer, before I make any rash decisions. But yeah, man, it'll be fun. We'll talk about it some more next week.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's one of one of those things. It's early, people are going to panic and drop and pick up and drop and pick up. So
yeah,
it's like if I was going to do that, I would have dropped Joe Burrow. But
oh yeah, yeah.
But they
It's
had
only
a hell of
week
a
1.
time playing New England.
Joe Burrow is still Joe Burrow unless he continues this for the entire year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's why.
He still has a track record of being like a great quarterback. So you can't completely drop him yet unless he continues this.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's unfortunate because I'm 0-1 obviously in this league, but
yeah, but
I happen to run into this is my MO during these years for fantasy. I feel like my team will go off. I think I had the third highest score. I think Jomar technically got a little bit higher than me this week, but every year it's like it seems like almost half of the games that I play in, if not more, during the year, I would win against pretty much every other team in the league, but I happen to go against the guy who freaking scores the most points in the league or the week, for the week.
Yeah.
And that was Bora fucking destroyed me.
Oh geez.
And it's crazy because if you look at the matchups for the week, I had 138 points. That would have beat everybody except Jomar and Bora because Joe had 144. He beat, Gerald, but yeah, my 138 would have beat everybody. And of course I lose to the guy that scores 152 week 1. I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's just my luck. I feel like, unfortunate.
Right.
But it is what it is. I think I can't remember if we looked. It's first week. Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised with me getting 138 points. But yeah, his 152. I'm like, God damn, he scored 32 more points than what he was projected to score. So I was like, dang, I can't can't do anything with that.
Yeah.
But that's fantasy for you. That's
It is.
that is fantasy. But it is what it is. It's really just his I think it's really just his quarterback that outplayed mine, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Joe Burrow does a little bit better and has his normal Joe Burrow game, then it might be a little bit closer. But it is what it is.
Back.
It is what it is.
He has one of the best receivers in the game. He'll bounce back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I lost in I think my 2 leagues. I did win in my family league. So there's that at least. I squeaked out a win last night with Brees Hall.
Yeah. Nice.
So that was a butt clencher for sure in terms of fantasy stuff. But hey, we'll take it. We'll take it.
All right, man. Well, that's all I got for today. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up and call it good night?
Nah, man. I think that's all I got this week. Sports, just sports ball.
Sports ball.
Yeah, sports ball. Football's back. Baseball is coming close to an end for all you Seattle Mariners fans. It's
ball and pumpkin spice latte up on the board.
Yeah, those all came out early. Just like we talked about last week with I don't feel like it should be pumpkin spice time in 95-degree weather or 101, which it was last weekend for us, which is crazy. I think that's about it. Look forward to finally hearing from Ray. He's just going to dodge it until he starts doing well. Bo Nix. Yeah. He's going to be like, see, I did this on purpose.
Who knows?
I don't know. I was like, bro, Nix probably would have made it to the 10th round. I don't.
He probably could have been a last pick. He probably would have been in free agency even.
Yeah. I think what boggles me more is that he kept Justin Fields and then dropped him after the draft. I'm like, bro, you had other players you could have kept.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we'll interrogate him another day. Thanks, man.
No, I know it's it'll be interesting. There's still a lot of quarterbacks still technically on the board right now. I mean, I don't know who picked him up, but Baker Mayfield.
That's
he put up 30 points. So we'll see how it goes. Football's back. Baseball's coming to a close here. We may see Shohei get his 50-50, first time in MLB history. 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases in a year.
Oh, geez.
Nice. So that's a tracker. So we're constantly watching that. But yeah, that's it on the sports side. And who knows what we talk about next week? It's partially going to be sports, but then the other stuff probably going to be close to potentially politics. Who knows? The debate is happening as we speak in this podcast, at least. So we won't know anything until next week. So
all right, man.
But if you're here anyways, listening to us and hoping that we talk more politics, you're going to be disappointed because we don't really talk too much about politics.
True.
Especially now that Dustin's not here.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We love Dustin, but
miss on the show, so.
I was going to say, we didn't even really talk about politics when he was on. We just brushed over, glazed over it because he lives right next to DC. So but yeah, cool.
All right. Well, keep the dialogue going. That's how we learn and grow. Keep talking with each other, keep thinking together, keep growing together, and we'll see y'all next time.